welcome back to another Giant Slayer TFT patch rundown video. Today is the day, folks. Neon Knights has finally been released. Set 6.5 comes with a whole bunch of changes, including new champions, traits, and augments. We've covered those in previous videos, so we recommend checking those out to get an idea on what's new, as well as looking at online resources to help ease the information overload. As for today's patch notes, we're going to focus mostly on the relevant balance adjustments. Anything regarding the new champions, traits, or augments will be left out. We have a lot to cover, so make sure you check out the full patch notes. With all that said, let's go ahead and get started. But before we begin, please don't forget to click the links in our description. Give your support to everyone who helped make this video happen. We host many TFT tournaments with plenty of exciting content to come. Be sure to also follow our Giant Slayer TFT social media pages. Alright, let's get back to the video. Before we get into the balance adjustments, let's first go over the notable system changes coming with the mid-set. By far the best change they're introducing in the mid-set is the addition of an opponent matchup tracker, a tracker that players can see in-game without any third-party intervention. This is huge for TFT because previously they've always been against the idea of adding a tracker and wanted to obfuscate the system as much as possible. But the algorithm for combat tracking has been figured out for some time, and in the most recent sets, we've seen third-party apps making it much easier to track. By adding this tracker into the game itself, it evens the playing field for everybody. And that's a great thing, especially with how nuanced the system is. Now players will see who they will potentially fight in the next round following the same rules as before. Definitely a great quality of life addition to the mid-set. The other system change is much smaller, but still a useful quality of life change. They've added augments to match history, making it easier to go back and check out a previous game you played. This is great for players looking at their own history, but is helpful for anyone wanting to look up a specific player to see what they've been favoring. Good change, though small. Moving on, we've got a whole slew of augment changes to cover, but a lot of them are swapping one champion with another when taking a specific augment. We'll be skipping the majority of those and recommend reading the patch notes for them. That said, we will talk about the relevant changes because a few of them do have potential impact on the meta. The first augment being adjusted is the Runic Shield. At tier 1 and 2, the player gains a champion when taking this augment, which does add a lot of value. But a larger change is definitely the removal of Runic Shield 3. While there are plenty of higher value prismatic augments, at least having the option of Runic Shield when playing Arcanist was good to have, specifically on 4-6. Ultimately, this removal won't be all that apparent, but it is another hit to any Arcanist compositions. Ardent Censor takes a small 5% nerf to the bonus attack speed it provides. This may be due to there being more low-cost enchanters, but the synergy is just good in general. 5% nerf isn't too much, so expect this augment to still do well. Assassins lost a lot in the mid-set, and they're losing even more with Cutthroat going from 65% mana reave to 50%. For now, it seems like Assassins are not in a great spot, but time will tell based on future balance patches. Duet also received a big nerf as bonus health on the hexes decreased to 200 from 400. Maybe this is because socialites are easy to snag with the additions of Gnar and Senna, or just because Duet was doing too well. Either way, this definitely lowers the value of Duet by a lot. The only change to the Pirates augment is that now players gain a Quinn when taking the augment. Not massive, but it does help get Mercenary up and running in situations where the player has only 2 Mercenaries and needs a Quinn. Niche buff, but a buff nonetheless. Armor plating will now only proc the Invulnerability Shield once at 50% health and lasts 3 seconds. It's hard to say whether this is a nerf or a buff, but what is a buff is that taking this augment provides a Cho'Gath. That makes it a significantly better augment in the early game where you gain a free Cho'Gath and Cho'Gath becomes harder to kill. Increased restrictions is a good thing for augments. 2 such restrictions in 12.4 are Broken Stopwatch and Clear Mind. Stopwatch will not appear on 1.4 while Clear Mind will only appear on 1.4. Definitely need to see more of these types of restrictions on augments, so this is a step in the right direction. Prismatic augments have a lot of competition, which is why an augment like Celestial Blessing 3 would often be overlooked unless there was literally nothing better. To make this augment slightly more competitive, they buffed the healing by 10%. Still not amazing compared to other more impactful prismatic augments, but certainly more appealing than previously. Similarly, Cybernetic Implants 3 will provide 450 health instead of 350 for the same reasons as Celestial Blessing. The more competitive they make each prismatic augment, the better, as all it means is more options for players instead of a rather stale meta we saw in Gizmos and Gadgets, where the majority of the time the best augment was an obvious choice. For anyone familiar with the PvE phase of set 6.5, it was clear Enforcers were popping up all the time. To make it less likely that 4 Enforcers is going to ruin everyone's fun in every game, they've completely removed Enforcer Soul from the augment list. Overall, not a bad idea since playing against Enforcer can be quite unfun. Possibly the largest augment change is to Share the Spotlight. It is being bumped up 1 tier to Prismatic and now grants 125% of the Socialite bonus instead of just 100%. On top of that, the player also gains a Senna. Making the share the spotlight prismatic does lessen the value of it because it was already a relatively niche pick. Not having control over where the hex is and having to clump your board makes it a risky play. That said, bumping the bonus by 25% is a significant increase and may make it much stronger than before. Time will tell on this change for sure. With augments done and dusted, let's move on to the trait changes for patch 12.4. Again, there's a lot being adjusted here, so be sure to skim over the patch notes. We're mainly going over the major changes being introduced to a few select traits. A quick smaller change is a minor nerf to Enforcer as the duration is down to 4 seconds from 5. Not a huge nerf, but as we mentioned earlier, the synergy can be unfun to play against, so nerfing it feels like a good idea. For a much larger change, they're making it so Colossus provides an innate bonus of 800 health. This does mean they've adjusted the base health of the Colossus champion, so it mostly only matters for players unaware that Colossus units are stronger than others. In any case, it should help Colossus be worth more on the board than before. The first large change is a bunch of adjustments to Innovator. Innovator has been a dominant synergy throughout Set 6, but really showed its power at the end of Gizmos and Gadgets. Continue to dominate on PvE, so naturally, it means it's nerfing time. Pretty much across the board, they're nerfing the Dragon Summon with a minor health decrease to the bear. With less health, crit damage, and a shorter fear duration, maybe we'll see 7 Innovators not automatically win games. Then again, the Dragon is still ridiculously strong, so it should still do well. Mutant is now a 7-piece synergy, and with that, they've altered every mutation to match to have an extra tier. There's a lot of adjustments, so be sure to read them over before committing to playing Mutant. Adding an extra tier of Mutant is certainly interesting and should help this trait scale better in the late game, though emblems or augments will be necessary to do so. Socialite is also gaining an extra tier if you have 5 Socialites active. They have lowered the bonus damage by 5% for one Socialite, but 5 of the trait now doubles all of the bonuses. Let's see how this plays out, but there could be interesting niche boards utilizing 5 Socialite as well as specific augments. And the last trait change is to Twin Shot. Twin Shot is now a 2, 3, 4, 5 tiered synergy with the proc chance and bonus AD being adjusted to match the change. This should help overall with splashing in Twin Shot for the carries, though losing both Kog'Maw and Urgot has really hurt the overall playability of the synergy in the meta. Up next, we've got champion changes. There's quite a few changes, but some of them we've already covered with existing champions losing or gaining new synergies. We recommend checking out our videos on the 6.5 changes or just reading the patch notes to get a full list. The first relevant change is to Cho'Gath, whose damage is going down to 850-950 from 900-975. An early Cho'Gath can be good and in some cases a bit too good, especially with the armor plating augment change. Mutant is also a bit different, so compounding all of those changes means it's time for a small nerf to old Cho'Gath. Echo received a ton of adjustments with more damage, health, and defenses. Offsetting those buffs, they've reduced the damage of his ability, albeit not by much. Keep in mind, Echo is also now an Innovator, meaning his value has gone up even more than before, which is crazy to consider since he was already a high priority. For sure, Echo is poised to be one of the strongest 3-cost champions in the meta. Gangplank's damage is going up slightly, which should make it easier to farm extra gold with his ability in the early stages of the game. Making him a full-on carry may still be out of reach, so the Twin Shot changes have the potential to make it more of a possibility. They just can't leave Vex alone, though this time they're buffing her shield as well as her magic-resistant armor. Vex should all-around be more tanky for the front line, which is the role she has been best suited for. Zac has a crazy change where he takes 75% reduced damage while casting his ability. Sure, this cast is relatively fast, but this should help Zac take over the role that Mundo provided as a somewhat unkillable frontliner. Certainly not to the same degree, but it's a role that needed to be filled, so Zac will ooze his way into it. Sadly, they're nerfing Brahm's stun duration on his ability for both Tier 1 and 2. Braum should still be plenty good as a frontliner, but it's always unfortunate to see frontliners nerfed. It seems they don't like Orianna as a damage dealer, as her ability's damage is going down while the shields are going up. Shouldn't affect her viability in the meta too much, though stacking Orianna with items may be slightly less common. Similarly, Seraphine is also losing out on damage, though there's no compensation here as the attack speed bonus is going down by 5% at Tier 2. No love for Seraphine, it seems, though Socialite has more potential uses in the meta. The most relevant change to a champion for the mid-set is to Vi. Vi is now a 4-cost champion with a new ability that has multiple tiers. This new ability provides Vi with actual CC and mobility in a fight, though she is less likely to do big damage like before because her positioning is often changing. Finally, we have 5-cost changes beginning with Galio. They are adjusting Galio so his base damage is less and his stun duration is slightly lower, but to compensate those nerfs, they're adding extra damage to his initial damage of his ability. When landing, Galio deals an additional 5% of his max health as damage. Being a Colossus and likely having defensive items means Galio can do a big old chunk of damage when landing. That said, it may not be enough to offset the nerfs, and at the end of the day, fitting Galio onto a board is still pretty difficult. Jinx was by far the largest disappointment of Gizmos and Gadgets. To help her create the mayhem she deserves, they're buffing the attack damage scaling of her ability as well as increasing her magic-resistant armor. Interestingly, they've also made it so that after landing the initial rocket, she will randomly target each time she auto-attacks. This will spread her damage out and help prevent Jinx from getting stuck on a tank, but it may also be too much variance. We'll have to wait and see how this change plays out. Our final section is about item changes coming with the mid-set, but we've already talked about it before. But to reiterate, the largest change is the removal of Guardian Angel and the introduction of its replacement item, Edge of Night. Edge of Night should be overall more balanced than Guardian Angel since it provides utility without the issue of resurrecting the item holder. It may take a bit of time for this new item to find its place in the meta, though we do recommend at least trying it out on carries. Au revoir, Guardian Angel. That's all for today's video, folks. While we've tried to cover the bulk of the 12.4 changes, it's important that players still look up information on their own because there's a lot to learn. It's also worth noting that Ranked has had a soft reset, meaning you will start one tier of ranks below what you were before. Good luck to everyone on their ranked climb. Let us know in the comment section below what you're the most excited to try out in the mid-set. Thank you for watching. If you're enjoying our content, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for future Giant Slayer TFT videos.